been this extraordinary story running all day in the press here, and it's left me quite angry and quite bewildered, and the story centres around type 2 diabetes. Basically, the headline of the story is that type 2 diabetes has risen by 60% in Britain in the last 2 years. It's an astonishing figure. Type 2 diabetes is a very serious illness. It can lead to blindness, it can lead to all kinds of medical complications. It can also lead to amputations. A lot of people with type 2 diabetes have to have legs and feet amputated. You might be wondering why I'm angry about people who are ill with type 2 diabetes, but the problem is that this report has said that 90% of type 2 diabetes is caused by a bad diet, lack of exercise, lifestyle choices, and of course the obesity that comes from that. 90% of everybody in Britain who has type 2 diabetes has it because of their lifestyle choices, the food they choose to eat, the exercise they choose not to do. That is just astonishing, that an illness that is so debilitating, that can lead to you losing your limbs, 90% of the people who have that illness are effectively choosing to have it because they're choosing the foods and the drinks and the things that are actually causing type 2 diabetes. There are some really shocking statistics that I've been hearing about today on the radio. One of them is that in Britain, 135 people a week with type 2 diabetes have at least one or both of their feet amputated. 135 foot amputations are carried out by the NHS in Britain every single week because people are choosing to have this terrible illness, because they choose to eat junk food, they choose to not move their bodies, they choose to be obese. 135 feet are being chopped off by surgeons because of an illness which the vast majority of is caused by lifestyle choice. That's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary number of people who are suffering because they choose their lifestyle, the wrong lifestyle, junk food, no exercise. What the hell is going on? The National Health Service in Britain, in case you don't know, is paid for by me. It's paid for by everybody in Britain who pays their taxes. We pay our taxes, and part of our tax is taken to pay for the NHS. So if anybody challenges me and says, what is my illness got to do with you? What is my obesity got to do with you? Well, your illness, your weight, your obesity has got everything to do with me, because I'm paying for people to be treated in hospital. Everybody in Britain who pays their taxes is paying for people who are being treated in hospital. So if you are choosing to have an illness because of your bad lifestyle, then, you know, that's my business, because I'm paying for you to be looked after. 10% of the NHS drug bill, that's 10% of the entire bill for all drugs for everybody who's sick in Britain, is taken up by drugs for type 2 diabetes. Again, 90% of people suffering with that illness are suffering because of lifestyle choice. 10% of the entire drug bill for the entire NHS in Britain is taken up treating type 2 diabetes. £869 million is spent on drugs for type 2 diabetes, which needn't be spent, but is having to be spent on people because they're choosing junk food, they're choosing a crappy lifestyle that makes them overweight and sick. I mean, that's just absolutely extraordinary. I have the BBC News website on my laptop here, and there's this incredible quote from Dr. Joan St. John, who is a general practitioner in northwest London. She had this to say about type 2 diabetes. It's very noticeable in that not a week goes by that you don't make a new diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. At least one, if not two or three. Previously, that might have been one a month. So she's saying that every week she's diagnosing 2 or 3 new cases of type 2 diabetes, whereas not so long ago she'd be diagnosing 1 a month. This is just completely and utterly out of control, and it's all because of lifestyle choice. Another really shocking statistic is that £10 billion a year, and let's not forget, that's not business money, that's public money, my money, your money, British taxpayers' money. £10 billion a year of British taxpayers' money is being spent, and this is a quote from Barbara Young, the Chief Executive of Diabetes UK. £10 billion a year is being spent on managing avoidable complications. In other words, £10 billion of British taxpayers' money is being spent on the illness, the pain, the symptoms of this disease, which are completely avoidable. If you live a healthy life, if you eat decent food, if you take some exercise, you are highly unlikely to develop type 2 diabetes, and yet £10 billion a year. £10 billion is a number that I can't even picture what that would look like. Imagine a giant warehouse with £10 billion of banknotes in it. I bet you can't even imagine what that sort of money would look like, but £10 billion a year being wasted, being pissed away on people who have an illness that, I quote, that money is being spent on managing avoidable complications. The word that really pisses me off there is avoidable. Put it in bold type, underline it, put a box around it. £10 billion on avoidable complications. In other words, if people who had this illness chose to eat better food, do some exercise, get up off the sofa, turn the television off, they could avoid their illness, and we wouldn't have to spend £10 billion looking after them with their drugs. Just extraordinary. One of the most shocking things, and this is something that I can't even get my head around, one of the most shocking things that I've heard and read today is that there comes a point when you have type 2 diabetes where a doctor will tell you, if your condition continues like this, we are going to have to amputate one of your legs, or both of your legs, or one of your feet, or both of your feet. The doctor basically gives you a choice. You either start to eat healthily and do some exercise and lose weight, or we're going to have to amputate one of your limbs, okay? And the most shocking thing about this is that doctors and people in the NHS have said the number of people who are actually choosing to ignore that warning and just carry on eating junk food and sitting around and piling on the weight, and who are then ending up having to have a limb amputated, the number of people who are choosing an amputation of a limb over healthy eating has risen massively. I read one quote that said 62%. There's a 62% increase in the number of people who are basically ignoring that choice. You have a choice. You lose some weight by eating healthily and do some exercise, or your type 2 diabetes will lead you to us having to take off one of your limbs. We might have to take off 2 of your limbs and you'll spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair with no legs. The number of people who are choosing to have limbs amputated rather than adopt a healthier lifestyle has massively risen. I mean, my brain can't even comprehend what sort of person has a choice, a stark choice. You either eat healthier food, you lose some weight, or we take off a limb. What sort of person, what sort of idiot? And look, I'm sorry if you have this illness and you think I'm being an arsehole, but, you know, at this point I don't really care. What sort of an idiot chooses a limb amputation over eating healthily? Hey, instead of eating that pizza, eat a nice healthy bowl of pasta with some steamed veg. Otherwise, we'll take off one of your legs. Oh no, I'd much rather eat the pizza and have you chop off one of my legs. What? I mean, what the fuck are these people doing? And in case you think I'm being harsh, let me remind you that 90% of type 2 diabetes is completely avoidable because it's all about lifestyle choice. If somebody develops type 2 diabetes not through lifestyle choice, that's a different matter. If they have health complications, if they're fit and healthy, that's different. I'm talking about the people who are choosing to carry on a lifestyle of eating junk food, being lazy, spending all bloody day on the sofa watching shit television, and then having this terrible disease. The number of people choosing amputation of a limb over eating healthily has shot up. When is the government, when is the education system going to do something about the choices that people are making about eating shit food? You might say it's none of my business what people eat, but as I said earlier, if you eat junk food and you get obese and it costs a fortune to look after you because you have type 2 diabetes, I'm paying for that care. And every other taxpayer in Britain is paying for that care. So it is my business. When are people in Britain going to wake up? What sort of a person chooses to lose a limb? I can't even imagine how awful it would be if I went to the hospital tomorrow morning and a doctor said, we're going to have to take you in this afternoon, Mr. Gardner, because we've got to take off one of your legs. You're going to spend the rest of your life with one leg, or no legs. And the reason that we're going to take off both of your legs is because you choose to eat junk food and sit on the sofa all day. What sort of an idiot chooses to lose a limb rather than eat healthily and do some exercise? I think it's about time that we did something about the way the NHS works, because I'm starting to believe that some people who have illnesses that are a result of lifestyle choice should have to pay for their care, because I work hard, I pay my taxes, and I'm losing money out of my pocket because people who are sick, because they can't be bothered to stop eating junk food, don't want to change. Why should I have to lose money from my pocket to look after people who are making a definite choice between being healthy or being sick? Just to finish this video, take a deep breath. Just to finish this video, I'll read you a quote from Dr. Martin McShane, who is the National Health Service England's Director for Long-Term Conditions. He says this, and I echo this absolutely. In fact, I'd go further than this, but Dr. Martin McShane has this to say: "We've said it before and we'll say it again. It's time to get serious about lifestyle change.